social housing scheme to create 1.8 million jobs as CBN commits initial 200 billion naira facility to the projects. Reposition your fiscal revenue management systems, federal government tells governors. Unremitted pensions, 13 employers pay 56.5 billion naira penalties. OPEC projects a 7% rise in global crude oil demand. And on Business Express this morning, we shall be taking a critical look at the second wave of COVID-19 and how it's affecting businesses in Nigeria. Details of these and more on Business Express, reaching you from Abuja, Nigeria's capital. And I am Leah Katung Babatunde, your guide. The micro, small and medium enterprises remain the backbone of the nation's economy, and Vice President Yemi Osibajo is urging states and local government councils to take a second look at some regulations that are affecting the growth of the sector in Nigeria. State House correspondent Jide Onifade reports that this was during the inauguration of the Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Trade and Convention Center.
The time has come for us to have, the Chamber of Commerce paying very, very active attention to all that is going on in the MSME space, especially with respect to regulation. We must call out government officials who are making it difficult for people to do business. We simply must call them out. And this is important. If you recall, the president himself said that there is no way the private sector can thrive, no way business can thrive if government officials see themselves as roadblocks, see themselves as hindrances as opposed to facilitators.
No doubt that the kind of people that will use this place, a lot will come out of this place without a doubt that will positively impact on the future of our country.
What we do here, we also do training, vocational training, special skills, technology skills and so on to enable us create workability, employability. Many of our young graduates actually have challenges because of skills. So in addition to your degree, we also provide skills here.
The House of Representatives has submitted that the country's insurance laws were outdated and completely out of touch with the realities of modern times. To this end, the House, through its Committee on Insurance and Actuarial Services, resolved to tinker with the extant pieces of legislation. Chairman of the House Committee, Darlington Nwokocha, stated this at a two-day public hearing on Insurance Amendment Bill 2020.
The prescribed fines are stated in pound sterling instead of naira. Also, the amount stated as fines in various laws are grossly insufficient. Some provisions prescribe something as low as 2 naira and 5 naira respectively. This effort, it should set us on a very simple path to be able to improve our contribution to GDP, improve the achievement of the financial inclusion targets that the federal government has set.
Following the outbreak of the coronavirus pandemic and its impact on the economic and fiscal revenue outlook for 2021, the federal government has urged the governors of the 36 states of the federation to strategize and reposition their fiscal revenue management systems for this era called the new normal. With the impact of COVID-19, the revenue outlook for 2021 depends on the willingness of state governments to embrace the right tools, technology, and strategies to transform, enhance, as well as strengthen revenue growth and sustainability, and adopt what it termed cost optimization plans. Minister of Finance, Budget and National Planning Zainab Ahmed at the 6th annual internally generated revenue peer learning event say the impact of COVID-19 on the economic and fiscal revenue outlook for the year presents a significant opportunity, adding that fiscal reforms are important now more than ever to mitigate against current and future risk bearing any future pandemic or other global crisis.
Second quarter GDP reported a negative growth of minus 6.1%, and the third quarter improved to minus 3.69%. Our projection is that the fourth quarter will be much less also. We hope it will go into the positive territory, but if not, it will be in the first quarter. So it means we're gradually growing out of the recession. The growth between the second quarter and the first quarter is almost a 40% growth. That's why analysts are saying Nigeria is one of the fastest growing economies in the world. So yes, we're in recession, but we're very quickly growing out of recession and being able to set the country back on the path of growth. So this meeting that is holding here today is giving us a further opportunity to interact with the states and grow the revenue together and grow the economy together.
Women entrepreneurs in Nigeria operating in the export subsector are to benefit from the Directory of Business Support Organizations (BSO) produced by the Nigerian Export Promotion Council (NAPC) and the International Trade Center (ITC). The engagement with BSOs is a crucial channel through which the ITC's She Trades Commonwealth project aims to help develop a more gender-inclusive business ecosystem in Nigeria. The coronavirus pandemic came with severe consequences for economies around the world, with trade severely affected. But while some are counting losses, others see opportunities.
A whole full truck of onions went to waste. That's what happened to us during COVID-19. And I tell people it increased the prices of raw material.
I won't say it was a bad one. For me, it was a good one because it really made me think out of the jar. I won't say out of the box.
These women are part of a whole project targeted at putting together a directory of export-driven MSMEs as Africa counts down to the official takeoff of the Continental Free Trade Area January 1 and Brexit in sight. The directory will serve as a one-stop catalog to access key profiles and relevant BSO contact information, as well as provide information on capacity building, business generation, funding and advisory opportunities available to women-owned businesses in Nigeria.
These women, once we aggregate them, we know sector by sector who is doing what, so that we can now approach them sector by sector in terms of quality.
This kind of platform provides an opportunity for them to showcase that they do exist and they are providing services to women entrepreneurs, and it also gives us an opportunity to be able to connect to those type of associations as well.
The She Wealth Commonwealth project aims to increase economic growth and job creation in Commonwealth countries by enabling the increased participation of women-owned businesses in international trade. Nigeria may be on the verge of a second wave of COVID-19 infections, Health Minister warns, as other officials say the country expects to roll out a vaccine by April next year. The minister, Osibajo, said the rise in cases was mostly driven by an increase in infections within communities and, to a lesser extent, by travelers entering Nigeria. He also asked that the country is on course to access safe and efficacious COVID-19 vaccines in the first quarter of 2021.
Port health officers at points of entry have been directed to be vigilant.
And we are also asking state governors to please reopen your treatment centers. We are seeing a lot of cases going into the treatment centers, and we are already seeing very severe cases requiring ventilation.
Now, what are the concerns over a second wave of COVID-19 and its implications, of course, on the economy and businesses? I have with me an economist, Tefa Abraham. It's always nice to have you on the program.
Nice to see you again. Thanks, Kathy.
Okay. So let me start this way. We've seen the fiscal implications with rising numbers. Would you say economically now we are in a second wave?
Thank you. For us in the economic space, as analysts, the COVID-19 has always been an issue of negative economic shock to the supply and demand channels. Now, from the first wave of COVID-19, we saw how it shut down demand and supply channels and then slowly dragged the Nigerian economy into a recession. Now, despite the effort of the present administration through its monetary, fiscal, and social intervention programs to cushion the effect of COVID-19, in other words, of the lockdown and the shutdown on supply and demand channels on Nigerians so that economic activities can stay on, don't forget, Nigeria is not an economy in isolation. So we trade with US, we trade with China, we trade with the whole world. So if all these countries are recording serious cases of second wave, even though Nigeria is not there yet and we don't pray seriously like that, the likely impact on Nigeria is certainly imminent. And because of the interconnection of people through the travel space, it is most likely that as people move in and move out, most likely if we don't go back to the measures that NCDC and the WHO recommended and follow it strictly, we are on the verge of a second wave, truly.
Well, we've seen a rising number of holiday makers coming in, and also the rising number of cases recorded in the last 1 week precisely. Mm-hmm. How do you see these numbers? And as you've rightly pointed out, how do you see it affecting Nigeria's recovery journey, which we all agree has started?
The Minister for Finance, Budget and National Planning made it clear that Nigeria is an economy that's growing in recession. Yes, our second quarter took us down in terms of real GDP by -6.1%, but by the third quarter, we saw Nigeria growing from that -6.1% up to -3.62%. That's about 40 to 50% growth in recession. So remember, if the Nigerian economy had gone down by more than 10% for a period of time, we'll be risking depression. So you can see the effort of the present administration helping the economy to avoid a situation of depressed recession, if I may use that word, into a situation of growing in recession. So this growth from -6.1% to -3.62%, if every fiscal, monetary, and social intervention measure is harnessed or judiciously implemented, we see a situation where Nigeria economy should be growing out of the recession by fourth quarter, first, or at worst, second quarter. But with this effect of COVID-19 risking it's another round, the effort of the present administration to see our economy grow out of recession is certainly on the verge.
Now, at the end of last week, we saw the IMF conclude its exercise in Nigeria and came up with the Article 4 findings. We also got the World Bank bringing out the NTU report also at the weekend. They came up with fantastic recommendations and observations for Nigeria, by the way. Now, with these numbers we are recording, because there's a likelihood that all this happened before last week. Do you see this changing what these major bodies have projected about Nigeria's recovery?
The projection by the Bretton Woods institutions about the positive growth for Nigeria is forward-looking 2021 if all conditions are in place. Exactly. If our economic policy to ensure domestic balance is in place, and if our economic policy to ensure external balance is in place. Now, the external balance is where you're looking at foreign reserve exchange rate and inflow for hard currency. The domestic balance where you're looking at public expenditure and its impact on private sector, public-private partnership, and things like that. But to get the domestic balance moving, it's important to set in motion or to pass immediately our 2021 appropriation bill. But again, that is anchored on the 2021 finance bill. So all those projections are nice, and we are most certainly likely to achieve it. Again, if you follow the OPEC projection, they have a positive projection for crude oil price. Remember, Nigeria's 2021, the whole 2020 to 2021 is anchored or premised on economic sustainability plan, and it has 3 scenarios, and all these scenarios has a situation where if crude oil price increase by so amount, our economy will grow. So if we are lucky and crude oil price grow, our economy, Nigeria economy follows crude oil price. So we're likely to grow on that note. But that will be on a random factor, something stochastic that we can't really have a hand on. What we can have a hand on is our deliberate domestic economic policies, and setting that in motion will really help us to cushion the effect of the second wave.
Now, what will be the effect of all those policies, and what will be the likely outlook for business owners in Nigeria? And of course, balance of trade is also a factor here. We have seen declining income, which has also affected exchange rates. What exactly is the picture before us in the short term?
For businesses that are domestic businesses, for those who source their raw materials within the Nigerian economy and who have a large market share within the Nigerian economy, they are likely to grow. That's it. But for businesses that have a component outside the economy, their external supply chains and demand is likely to be affected. So looking inward is an important measure for businesses right now. Then again, the CBN also did something very nice, which is the remittance program. Remittances has a huge impact on balance of payment position. I'm happy you mentioned that. Remittances alone has a capacity of $24 billion. That's more than 4 times Nigeria's capital expenditure and nearly 80% of our 2021 proposed total expenditure. So as we begin to cash in into inflow of remittances, thanks to CBN policy, whereby Nigerians at home will receive hard currency sent to them in dollar, and they open their domiciliary account and things like that, we expect that inflow of foreign exchange will increase, and we'll see the Nigerian economy generally being resilient in the midst of storm.
Now, this is a quarter where we see a lot of buying and selling, a lot of trading activities, and we also have the AFCFTA inside. Do you think that Nigerian businesses are really cashing in despite the situation at hand?
The AFCFTA has the potential to expand growth for not just Nigeria, but for every member, every country that is a signatory to it. But again, because of the COVID-19 slowdown in travel, and because of issues of border closures, which Nigeria is also part of, but I'm happy the president announced that very soon they'll be opening up the borders. So these are some of the things that free trade allows for, free movement of goods, but COVID-19 doesn't like that. So this is COVID-19 fighting economic free thinking, which we need right now for growth to really be accelerated. So, but bottom line for businesses back home, those who can cash in on local raw materials, local market, local demand, and are able to find safe ways of exchanging in goods and services within the confine of COVID-19, really have some positive outlook.
So before I let you go,
yes,
as an economist now, the scenarios before us, is it in any way changing the fundamentals that economies around the world have come to align with?
Basically, global economy is driven by globalization, free trade, law of one price, one market. Now, COVID-19, like I said, has hatred for physical exchange of goods and services. So global economy, and especially WTO, will be working towards fast-tracking exchange of goods and services. And right now, we need Abuja Chamber of Commerce and Industry, Lagos Chamber of Commerce and Industry, every trading platform we have in our country to really take advantage of the digital economy, the digital space, so that trade can take place online real time. So what will happen now is that there will still be investment in countries, but major companies will now have to partner with local suppliers so that when they get a demand from a country X, they contact another company country Y in Nigeria to supply that consumer. So this is how the thing with the economy will play right now. So we need to straighten up our real-time investment and strength, and then businesses need to really open up to partnership with global companies that looks like theirs, so that they can serve as intermediaries in supplying local markets.
Okay, I would like to really appreciate you, Tifa, for coming on the program.
Thank you very much, Catherine. It's always a pleasure.
Okay, always a pleasure too. Same here. Now, the coronavirus pandemic has no doubt impacted negatively on many small businesses, but while many groan under the hardship, it is an opportunity to smile to the bank more than usual for some. Now, this is the case of Mary Omo, a gardener as put together by Benny Adams in our Surviving COVID-19 series.
Surviving COVID-19 series is brought to you in partnership with the Central Bank of Nigeria. before I came to Abuja, I was into textiles. So at a point, I needed a change of business.
Then it started in a dream, a walk in the garden 14 years ago.
I saw myself planting flowers. Somebody was telling me the names of the plants and so on. So when I woke up from that dream, I said, how do I go about this? I've never even been a good farmer. I've never done things like this before. I've never even gone to a garden to buy a plant before. I was not a plant lover actually. How do I go about this?
It is said, when there is a will, there is a way.
She said, Madam, if you want to do this business, don't go and look for millions of naira. Just go to your backyard, get flowers. Start nursing them from your backyard. From there, start looking for market on how you can sell them. And that was how I started. For this one, when this one is dying, do it this way. I say, fine. So when I'm around him, there's a way he makes sales. At times when he's not around, I will make sales for him. When he comes, I say, hey, auntie, how did you sell this plenty money now? I say, don't worry, I know there's something I will call favor that follows me. He said, okay. So he said, okay, since you are like this, I'm ready to teach you everything. So I was with him here in this garden. But it was small, it was a small portion then. So I'll come every day, I'll resume here. So we kept on until one day he said his people said he should come home, that he wants to leave the business. He wants to sell the business, sell the garden to me. I said, where do I have such money? How much were we talking about? It was not even up to what I needed then was like 50-something thousand.
Soon, it became a family business with a daughter going ahead to study medicinal plants at master's level.
In fact, if you give me a paper, say write the list of business you think you will do in this life before you die, this thing will not even be on my list. But somehow I just find myself doing it. And I began to love plants. So at a point, I now called my children and said, look, let's see how we can do this thing together. Now I don't have money to employ workers. Let's be doing it ourselves. My daughter will go out and look for cellophane leathers. She will bring, we'll plant. There was a day she came back. She said, Mommy, say people were calling her Ayambola. I said, don't worry. It's just for some time. So she will pick the leathers. This same girl I'm talking about today, she has graduated as a plant scientist.
While businesses experienced downturn as a result of the pandemic, hers was different.
People were coming for our herbs because we have medicinal plants. We have plants we grow here. We have the strawberry. We have other plants, edible, spices, fresh spices we sell. So people must eat. So at that point, people were even calling us from the house. They need also spices, so they want to do this, they want to take their tea, so we're still selling, even at lockdown.
She says some of the rare species are from seeds imported, which is capital intensive. And with her everyday expansion of customer base through referrals, coupled with presence on various social media platforms, she says more capital is required to sustain supply.
Especially this medicinal plant, we send them to every part of the country. So if we have access to loan, we'll be able to buy more of these seeds. We'll be able to buy more containers because you need to plant them in their containers. So we'll be able to buy more of these things and expand.
As her garden puts food on the family table, Mrs. Omo is determined to initiate many into the business by creating jobs on her garden and annually engaging school pupils in the practice of gardening.
Surviving COVID-19 series is brought to you in partnership with the Central Bank of Nigeria.
Now, the Nigerian equities market closed Monday on a positive note as the NSE All-Share Index appreciated by 1.73% to resume this morning at 34,843.44 basis points. Its year-to-date returns currently stands at a positive of 29.81%. Market breadth closed positive as Airtel led 26 gainers and 14 losers were topped by Prestige Insurance. Market turnover, on the other hand, began the week negative as volume moved down by minus 73.86% against the previous sessions. Meanwhile, stocks in Asia Pacific were lower in Tuesday morning trade as concerns over a coronavirus surge in multiple countries dulled optimism over vaccine rollout in the U.S. Moplang Dakok reports.
Stocks in Asia were lower on Tuesday trade as concerns over a coronavirus surge blunted optimism over the vaccine rollout in the U.S. The Shanghai Composite declined 0.07%, while the Shenzhen component slipped 0.14%. Hong Kong's Hang Seng Index was 0.62% lower. In Japan, the Nikkei 225 dipped 0.17% at 26,687.84 basis points. European stocks also started lower on Tuesday as post-Brexit trade deal negotiations and the latest coronavirus developments continue to dominate market attention. London's FTSE is seen opening 31 points lower at 6,531. In the US, the Dow Jones Industrial Average and the S&P 500 fell on Monday as fears of additional COVID-19 restrictions offset optimism. The markets in US and Africa are picking up gradually this morning and are yet to post numbers as at the time of filing this report. Coronavirus developments are generally weighing on market sentiment, with Germany and the Netherlands announcing tighter restrictions over Christmas in a bid to curb a sharp rise in infections. With Global Market Update, Moplang Dakok.
This is where we end this edition of Business Express. We value your feedback, so keep the comments, observations, and suggestions coming. Be informed that all previous episodes are available on YouTube on the NTA's channel. You can also communicate with us on Twitter. The handle is NTA News Now. Don't forget to use the hashtag BizX. Business Express returns Wednesday at 3 p.m. Remember, coronavirus is still out there. I'm Leah Katun Babatunde saying keep thinking and doing business.